Hey, welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel. I'm John. I'm the host of the channel. You guys are the audience, but guess what? We all share our ideas, our thoughts. I get to bring up a subject. You guys get to join in. So I've got a pretty good one for you tonight. And yes, it's tonight because I need to get to bed really early and then get up really early and head to work. Because I guess us taxpayers that pay for Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's programs, we got to pay our taxes, which means we got to get to work, which means we need a good night's sleep. So let's get to it, and I'll make sure you have this when you're watching it in the morning. Alrighty, I think I want to start this video with a little personal history about myself. I'll keep it short. You know, brevity's the soul of wit. I grew up, had friends, joined the Marine Corps, got out, came home, and there were two groups of us, and we had similar interests: motorcycles, four-wheel drives, and drinking beer. Anyways, there were two groups of friends. There was an older group and a younger group. And amongst one of the older group was the leader. And I call him a leader because he was a business leader. He was an opportunist. He paid attention. He did very well. And last time I talked to Dean and saw Dean, he was very successful as a businessman. What I noticed about Dean was he was always on the winning side of a business deal, meaning he positioned himself so that he didn't have to buy or sell, but when opportunities presented themselves, he did very well, right? He was a good businessman. Never took advantage of anybody, as far as I know, and from what I saw. Anyways, his group was a little older, so they ended up getting married and going off, and then our group did the same thing. We ended up getting married and going off about our regular lives. But I was thinking about Dean here, and I thought, you know, it's time to discuss shit it's the fan, self-reliance versus bartering. It's a topic that comes up. A lot of people want to store goods and things. They think they can barter and shit it's the fan. And other people say, no, you must be totally self-reliant. You don't want to barter, right? You don't want to do anything like that. Now, I tend to lean towards the self-reliance side of things because I don't want the potential conflict, the potential trap or ambush or sabotage of the program by other parties. But it's hard to get past the idea that I'm going to come up short on something and other people may have it, right? So self-reliance versus bartering, you know. And I really do believe if you can provide it for yourself, store it, you know, whether it's food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense, right? If you have the ability to have it, you should keep it for yourself. Because even though you have everything you need, guess what? There are others who may need to barter with you, and you may end up having an excess supply of goods. Now, when shit hits the fan, if it's super Captain Caveman Armageddon, look the fuck out, right? You may not want to have anything to do with anyone. I'm sure I won't. If all I do is hear the sound of gunshots and people screaming in terror, I don't want to have anything to do with people. But if it's a shit hits the fan light, okay. You know, I may look around and say, you know, it might be okay, right? It may be okay to talk to people. Right, form a little loose network community, not a bad idea, for common self-defense and purposes of prosperity, to whatever degree that, you know, someone might consider prosperity and shit it's the fan to be true prosperity. But when you're hungry and you don't have food, you're poor. And when you're hungry and you have food, you're prosperous. Shit it's the fan is going to be full of things like that, don't you think? Right? Don't you think? So this idea of self-reliance and bartering. Now, what's an advantage to self-reliance? You're not having to rely on others. You're not having to expose yourself to others. You're not having to go without. And there's psychological as well as physiological repercussions of being starved out, literally, of vitamins or minerals or good water. You can operate on minimal amounts of water, but it's called minimal for a reason. Right? Your body, in order for premium health, premium energy, awareness, you need a lot of water. Those sorts of things. So let's just assume, for argument's sake, that we're having shit it's the fan light. There's the occasional gunshots, the occasional screams of terror, but it's not an all-day, everyday affair. Right? So I'm not saying things are normal, but, everyone's not dying. Not yet. So, self-reliance. If you're able to rely on what you have as a prepper, right? What good would it do you to barter? Well, you can keep totally to yourself, minimizing risk and exposure. It's a good idea. But if it's not so bad, perhaps your neighbors, other preppers in the area, or would-be preppers who are doing all they can to get by, they would see you as a potential ally. If they're doing okay, right? If they're getting along, if they're making it, if they're squeezing by, if they've got something you want, then that's terrific. You can barter, right? You can trade for it. You're already self-reliant, but they may have something you want. They may have something you need. Now, of course, a good businessman never lets the trading partner know that you really need it. Even if you do, right? You always play the hand Sun Tzu style. And if you don't have Sun Tzu's Art of War, I recommend buying it. It's an inexpensive read. It's very popular. Get a copy of it, read it, and it just makes perfect sense. It's kind of just a contrarian approach to everything you do. When you're strong, you act weak. When you're weak, you act strong, etc., etc. And you can apply that towards your enemies as well and your allies. So anyways, bartering. So by avoiding contact, it offers you some benefits. But by engaging in contact, if there isn't a huge conflict and situation, it may be beneficial to you to a greater degree than staying disassociated, right? Because you can make allies. They may be useful for not only the barter items, but news. Here's something, loyalty, right? And community. Right? Community offers a lot. I'm not a huge community guy. I'm by no fucking stretch of the imagination a socialist. But I do understand strength in numbers as well as strength in geographic coverage. Now, what makes a warlord, say, in a country like Angola, so powerful, so capable of holding so much territory in the third world is that they have a network of people that benefit from knowing the warlord, and the warlord benefits from knowing these people. He rewards them for doing a good job, and they reward the warlord with what? Loyalty, information, making sure he is safe as well. It's kind of a, I don't know if I want to use the word codependent, but co-beneficial relationship. And the only reason I'm using a warlord is because that's an example. And shit, it's the fan, though. There will be warlords that don't use cooperation and good business practices and the golden rule as a means by which they rule their territory. No, most warlords are evil, rotten bastards that use fear and death and punishment and penalty to control. Still, we need to find what works, right? And so you'll end up feeling this out. So when shit hits the fan, we have a shit hits the fan light. Self-reliance, premium. But there are benefits. There are premiums also to bartering. Now, a little bit of the negative, even in a shit it's the fan light, is the people that you're helping out today. Well, next week they may be out and turn on you. They may believe or feel you have something that they want and need that they can no longer get because they're out of trade and barter items. Now, in that case, that's the way it goes. You're going to have to be the best judge, the best determinant of what is happening. If you're in shit it's the fan light and things continue to degrade, to get worse and worse and worse, well, hell yeah, you can expect that people will turn on you. Even people you've helped out in the past. After all, every human being is an opportunist, looking for the best deal they can get. And they may be a good business partner one day, and the next week, they may become the worst type. So you're going to have to keep an eye on the hood. You're going to have to keep an eye on your allies, their behavior, their health. Very important to watch people's health. If they start to deteriorate, their thinking is going to go south, right? They're not going to think clearly or come to logical conclusions and behave well as a result. So it is still your responsibility as the ultimate shit it's the fan participant, right, to keep that as part of your plan, right, to understand that not everyone is going to excel. Not everyone's going to make it. Not everyone is going to make a good decision. You know, my claim that if I saw things going south and someone needed to leave, that it would be okay for me to take that long walk. As Stephen King, Richard Bachman wrote, right, The Long Walk. Walk so far that direction that by time I had to turn around to try and make it back to civilization, I wouldn't have the energy and I would expire before I became a giant threat to everyone else. Right? Because people who become desperate become threats to everyone else. And you have a moral choice at that point to take yourself on a long walk, right, which would probably be the nicest way to commit suicide or jump off a cliff, but rather take yourself out of the equation so that you don't become an evil participant in shit it's the fan, right? But until we get there, who knows, right? Who knows who's going to behave? So anyways, this idea of self-reliance and bartering, and my friend Dean, who I learned an awful lot about business, always trying to put yourself in a position to benefit, to help others as well, but also to benefit yourself, come one way or another. You don't have to win in such a way that everyone's destroyed. Like I said, I never saw that from Dean. I just saw him making business deals that always benefited him, one way or the other, either in allies or in wealth. And Dean isn't the only example of that. I just like to hearken back to it because I had business dealings with Mr. Dean and learned quite a bit. Anyways, along these same lines, I wanted to bring up the topic of ammo stockpiling versus shit it's the fan gathering. Now there's shit it's the fan bartering and, you know, self-reliance, and then there's also stockpiling versus gathering. And what I want to talk about here is ammo. Precious metals are really important to me. You know, gold, silver, lead, copper, brass, and of course, blue steel. Right? Self-defense items is what most of those are. Now, there's a lot of concern and need and worry about how much ammo do I need? How much is enough? Right? So I wanted to examine this some more, and I spent some time thinking about it. And I thought, if shit is hitting the fan, and it's really bad, and people are blowing through ammo, there's going to be a lot of dead people because there's a lot of lead thrown down range. Regardless of how good a shot people are, you know, regardless, irrespective of their combat experience or their hunting experience or their shooting range experience, regardless of that, people are going to get picked off a lot. It's just the nature of throwing rounds down range. You're going to hit the target, you know, 1 out of 10 times, even if you're a lousy shot, just by accident. You know, let's just use that number. So there's going to be people getting picked off a lot. Just my opinion. You have to think about your world, your experience, your thoughts. The reason I speak of it like this is if there's very little shooting, there's going to be very little death, very little conflict, right? And so you're not going to be able to gather ammo off of dead bodies. At the same time, if there's very little shooting, very little action that way, then you're not using your ammo either. And you don't need 10,000 rounds, right? Because you're only using maybe a couple rounds to fire downrange, maybe a couple rounds to fire warning shots and keep people away. You're not going to need 10,000 rounds for that. But if you're having a lot of rounds, bam, 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 right? A lot of firefights, you're hearing it, you're seeing it all over the place. You can expect there's going to be a lot of dead bodies, and they're going to have ammunition laying about. One of my strategies has been to have rounds that are most common. 5.56 or 2.23, 357, 45, 40, 9mm, and 12 gauge and 20 gauge shotgun. Those are pretty common, along with that veritable rascal, the 7.62 by 39 communist round. And I think that I am such an old Cold War soul that I just can't seem to bring myself to own one of those chucks of stamped shit, no matter how good they are and reliable. I just can't do it. Anyways, stockpiling ammo. It's a good idea to have a good quantity of ammo, and the more you have, the better off you would be for it. But I wouldn't buy ammo to the quantity that you have less of other valuable resources like food, water purification. Proper clothing is a big one. It's a huge one. So you need to understand that if there's a lot of firefighting, one, you want to survive with no holes in you, and three, right, that'll give you the opportunity to gather. So shit hits the fan gathering, might be a form of bartering. Maybe someone else has done all the gathering and you say, hey, Mick, sure could use some more of that 5.56, and he says, hey, I got it for you there, Bert, right? And all I want to do is trade you for some rice. Right? It didn't cost him anything to go and pick up some ammo off of a dead person, right? But he's done the work, and so he gets to pay. Once again, look at opportunities. Think about opportunities. This is a whole nother world, by the way. To get into this position, I need a couple of scotches or a couple glasses of wine, a couple of beers, to start thinking what is going to happen inside and imagining it. Not just my world, but your world, that 10-mile radius around you. Who lives there? What is their thinking? Are they intelligent? If they are, they may be more judicious about getting into a gunfight. Are they ignorant? Will that make them less likely to take and make good decisions, or will they shoot first and ask questions later? You need to decide for yourself what they're going to do and what is in your area. So get out there and find out who is in that 10-mile radius around you. You know, so I think it's important that we remember our business skills. And as a businessman, it's just what I do. It's part of my thinking. We need to be opportunistic in life right now. Finding good deals. Best positioning ourselves financially, right, socially, in all ways. Because we'll benefit by that. That's what a smart person does. Putting yourself in a good position. And being opportunistic. Not in a negative, evil, asshole kind of way, but rather paying attention. You need to be aware. Right? You need to be looking for the good position to be in. Right? You need to make good decisions. When shit hits the fan, a big part of that is going to be having a good supply of food and water. So that you're well energized, right? So that your psychological perspective is up. Right? You're going to need to keep that up. It's going to be hard. Even in shit hits the fan light, it's going to drive people nuts. And look how the world, the U.S. and the whole world kind of fell apart during 9/11. They were in a state of psychological shock. When shit hits the fan, even if it's a shit hits the fan light, you need to understand people's thinking. It's not going to be all that sharp. Right? And you're going to want to be 10% smarter than anything you're working on. I tell that people all the time. They're working on something. They can't figure it out. I go, all you got to do is be 10% smarter than the problem. You'll figure it out and have a solution. Of course, you get the evil eye from that and get called the smart ass. But, right, it helps. All you got to do is be smarter than the problem, and you can excel through it. So, you know, being aware, using good logical thinking, and being prepared will help you to get prepared for shit hits the fan and then get through it. Whether you need to go more along the lines of self-reliance, or whether bartering, or a combination of all those things. But it's the prepared mind, right, that chance favors. You know, is yours. I really enjoyed this video, had fun getting ready for it, thinking about it, and I want to thank you guys for participating here on Patreon and supporting us in our efforts. We've got some big things happening a little bit later in the week. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. Even if Trump gets a trade deal with China, it's not going to help a bit. Right? We have problems brewing down in the Venezuela zone, right? Northern South America. It's brewing down there in Venezuela. So do your very best to get prepared. Keep a sharp eye, right? Stay frosty. Very important. Because chance does favor the prepared mind. You guys be cool. Semper Fi. Godspeed. Talk to you tomorrow.